What time is it there?
It's late, man. It's 11 p.m.
Oh, wow.
It's like 9 o'clock for you, right? In the
Right.
morning.
Yeah, yeah. Are you
Wow.
are you a
See,
night owl?
I'm not, man. It's way past my bedtime.
Sorry.
I was almost debating sitting here in my pajamas, and like with my nightcap on and stuff. But yeah, no, it's good, man. It's all good. I mean, pretty hard to get a reasonable time for us both, I think. So I'm sorry that you're so early, man. 9 o'clock.
Hey, if you're not a night owl, I see you've got it worse. I'd be hard pressed to stay up until 11 to do this. So thanks for making time.
Right. I see.
Let me
Yeah,
turn on the video
honestly,
here.
man, like,
Let me turn on
yeah,
the video
okay,
here.
cool, man.
Sorry, so we can have. I'd like to try and use it on the YouTube channel. There we go. Cool. Let's
Nice.
fix that up a little bit. All right.
We're wearing the glasses today, I see.
Yes, I can't. I
Yeah.
cannot really see shit about from this distance without my glasses. So,
Right, right, yeah.
I was checking out the background as soon as you came on. I'm like, that's the coolest looking bedroom. Wait, is that the Enterprise? What am I looking at?
Exactly, yeah. I was wondering what you want me to do with the background. Like I have a green screen and I was just playing around with
I love it.
this bullshit.
I love it. When I saw the arch behind you, I thought, oh well, that must be his bedroom, and I'm like, it's huge. That's so cool looking.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I thought the Enterprise would be cool, so I just thought, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it.
I
Well,
just wish
hey,
I had one of those suits, like with the red, all the yellow.
all you need is the calm thing. I mean, you set.
You're right. That's a really interesting story, but like so I got one of them from my granddad when I was like, I must have been like 10 years old. He bought me one, like a pin badge,
Hmm.
and I only had it for like 2 days, and then it disappeared. And I tell you, man, that's been something that I've thought about like all the time growing up. Like, where the hell did that go? Because I was so happy with that badge, and it disappeared. If I
You
had
know,
that now, man,
you're reminding me of something that's going to make a lot of people think I'm a terrible person. But
oh yeah.
so when I was really young, I worked for American Airlines, and then they're on the airline side, and then I worked on the computer system side. But
Right.
when I first started, I was on the airline side, and I'm young, and there are all these women that work there, and so I'm
Hmm.
having a good time meeting women and
Sure.
dating women, blah blah blah. And
Hmm.
one time, oh, I was gonna say, see, I have this kind of egotistic lore in my head that the way it
Right.
happened, but I'm remembering before I tell a lie straight out the gate. So there was going to be a strike for the flight attendants union, and they asked for people to volunteer to train as a flight attendant in case there was a strike. So there was this 19-day program. I enrolled. I'm like, heck yeah, I bet there's even more girls there.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but they gave me the metal American Airlines wings that I don't even know if they still use them. It's a pin, and you were
Right.
talking about that pin, and I was thinking about it, but because of all these good times I had meeting all these nice young women back then,
Yeah.
I would tell this story that this was from one of my, women that I had met, that she'd
Ah,
surrendered
yeah.
her, she
It
surrendered
would
her
be
wings
like
to
a
me.
souvenir to remember about. Right.
Now, some of you can think I'm a horrible person. I hope I have. So, hey,
Right.
well, let's get right into this. So thanks for reaching out to me. It's funny. I wondered what was going through your head when you contact me to tell me about this wonderful songwriter that you've been working with that you met on Kompoz, the collaboration platform, and suggesting that I have him on the podcast. And I listened to him real quick, and we're chit chatting. I start asking you a couple of questions, and then I'm like, I think you should be on the podcast. Did you have even just a moment of going, oh man, that wasn't what I was going for?
No, I was happy that you asked me to be on the podcast. I let me just say I really love your podcast, man. Like I'm a fan
Thank you.
first and foremost. Yeah, that's why I was kind of wondering whether you're gonna wear the glasses today or not. Because some videos you don't have the glasses on, other videos you do have the glasses on, and I was thinking like, I wonder if he's gonna wear the glasses today.
Oh yeah, that's just me. Like I'll get if I'm doing some of these tip things or something, I'll take them off because I don't have to really see. But most of the time, man, if I'm reading, it's funny that I'm curious to know which ones you saw where I don't, because I
I
can't
think
I
I,
can't
I
read
saw a few when
anything.
you were yeah a few when you were outside.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
Yeah, those
really
were just,
early ones.
yeah, those were impromptu. I guess I got to do some more of those. It's beautiful out here. So,
Yeah, because like I've been on a binge because I ride the train a lot because as you
uh-huh.
know I live in the city. I live in Osaka in Japan, and it's pretty much like you wouldn't want to drive here because it would take hours to just get out the road, you know, onto the out the car park. So there's really good transport here, and so I ride the train pretty much every day, and usually I ride more than 3 or 4 trains every day. And so when I'm on the train, man, I just have my phone and I just watch YouTube videos. And so I found your videos through the video you did with Peter Rend,
Hmm.
and I worked with him. He co-wrote a song which is on my recent album that I put out a couple of months ago.
What's the name of the song?
And the name of the song is 33,
I got to find it
and the
later.
album is called the album is called A Light Behind the Eyes.
A
And
light
he
behind the
wrote
eyes.
yeah,
Okay.
and he co-wrote that song. And I saw your interview with him. I don't know if he posted it or you posted it, and I just thought that it was really interesting, especially being like a musician. And so a lot of the music industry now is kind of it's really difficult, and so there's a lot of negativity I see surrounding, like, how, like, you know it's really hard to do anything and make a living from music. And so it was really refreshing to see your podcast, because your podcast had a load of people on it who were really making it work, making it work for themselves. And so I kind of started on the one with Peter and watched that while I was on the train. And then, on the train back, I watched the next one. Actually, I made a big mistake because I did the thing that I did with the Terminator movies and the Alien movies, where I watched like the second one before I watched the first one. And it just it kind of ruined the whole thing for me. And so I think what was the one with Peter? It must be like episode 180 something, 170 something.
Maybe, yeah. I don't have
Yeah,
them
you've done.
memorized. Yeah.
Yeah, I started on that, and then I was going backwards, and then I kind of realized, like, I probably should go back to the beginning, back to like number one. And so, like, I stopped listening to the recent ones, and I went back to like your really early podcasts where they're not even, I don't even think they're numbered. Like, I don't know when you started putting like number one, number two, but I think some of the earlier ones it's just like a name, and there's no number on there. And so I've been watching them and just kind of like going through them when I'm on the train. But that was why I initially reached out to you, because I just really like the podcast and the idea. And then, like you said, yeah, I'm working with this singer songwriter from Germany, and he's got some great tunes, but we need some promotion. And so I was thinking, well, this would be a great place because he's a great writer. He's a really great writer, and he's really prolific on the website, on the online collaboration website. So I thought this would be a great place. And then, of course, you asked me to be on, but yeah, and that was great too.
Yeah. And I would like to invite him on. So we'll talk about that after we do our thing here today. Initially, I was like, okay, so yeah, he sounds pretty good, and but then I started looking at your stuff, and it speaks to the power of developing a relationship, because in a couple of emails, you and I are kind of chit chatting. I mean, I get solicited daily now, I think, by PR reps and sometimes artists who are just hustling themselves, mostly PR people. And I don't even have the time to look at all of them now, which is a good problem, right? And plus, I
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
plus I have a big backlog of recorded episodes that I'm trying to publish. Plus, starting in January, I just kind of slowed down. So I'm doing them every other week right now,
Right.
and I may ramp back up. But anyway, it does speak to the value of what you did, reaching out, saying hi. And thank you so much, by the way, for all the nice things that you've said about the podcast. It's funny because when I was rereading your email, I was going to ask you, hey, man, can I use this as a testimonial on the website? It's great. I always forget
Yeah,
to ask people, and I thought I'll ask him. So
yeah. You can use anything you want, man.
I will. Well, I'm really glad
No.
you have enjoyed them. Peter's episode, frankly, took me by surprise. It has been one of the most popular ones, and I don't
Yeah,
know why that surprised me, but I
no,
think when
I
we're
know what you mean. It's the same with me. Like the song that I co-wrote with him for my album. We didn't co-write it as such. He actually uploaded a piano piece that
Mhm.
he'd written for his son, because I think his son turned 33. I think that was the reason. And I just really liked the piano piece so much. It didn't have a melody over the top, so I decided to put a melody over the top of it, and it really changed into almost a completely different song. And we ended up even re-recording the pianos. I got Ryo Okamoto from Spock's Beard to re-record the pianos, and he did a really beautiful job on that. And there's a few other guys on that track who are kind of really great musicians who I really love. And so by the end of it, it was like almost a completely different track because it was originally just a solo piano piece, and then after I added everything, we ended up re-recording the piano, but it still had that spirit, you know what I mean? That kind
Hmm.
of spirit and all that emotion that obviously he'd written it for his son. And so it's a really beautiful song. So that was, yeah. And that song was, turned out to be one of the more popular songs from the album as well. And so I think Peter's just got a knack for writing great songs, I guess.
Well, it's funny. So I don't know if you've gotten to this part in the podcast, but I found Compose because I was working on an article for Forbes.com, and his was possibly maybe not the very first, but it was literally the first day I was in there. I listened to this one track of his that he calls New Gods, excuse me, New Gods. And I'm like, oh, wow, I love that. And I kind of thought it had this prog rock sort of Genesis feel to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that as well. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I thought I'll go ahead and give this a try. My recording setup here at home behind me is pretty new, and but I thought I'll upload it and see what he thinks. And he liked it, and we just kept it up there, and a couple other people did some things. And then at the time I was working on publishing my first single, which came out this month, early in the month. And so anyway, I went back to him and said, hey, how would you feel about letting me release a new song based on the New Gods track? And so he spun off a side project, and we've been doing that. And that all happened after the podcast episode we had. I'd been thinking about it for a long time, but it's very different. The feel of it's very different than the other song I did. The other song almost I had a friend, it's kind of funny, this sounds nuts, but I had a friend describe it as, think Tom Petty's Heartbreakers jamming with Rush.
Right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
anyway, to me, the song, because of the guitar in it, has this sort of Tom Petty feel to it. So this one's going to be a lot different. It's got that, like I said, this sort of Genesis feel, and then I got the same bass player on it who who Geddy lead my last song, and I'm trying to play a little more straightforward. I had this initially. I thought I guess I could do this Phil Collinsy sort of thing, but then I'm like, no, that'll be that won't be good. And so I thought, well, I'll just sort of do this laid back, try and do this laid back Bonham thing. So anyway, needless to say, it's going to be pretty different. But
Yeah,
that's
man.
been the
Sounds great.
extent of my work on there so far. By the way, I did listen to a bit of the Here and Now, which was just released like yesterday.
Yeah, it came out yesterday. Yeah.
That's amazing. So we're recording this for those listening on the 29th of January, 2021, to timestamp it there. And so I was just listening to some of the tracks this morning before we got on this call, and it sounds really good, man. I love it. So much so I want to let a friend of mine know about it who is working on some sort of label venture to see if he might, be interested in putting it on there. So I don't know if you
Oh,
guys are
that'd be
interested in
really
that, but
cool, man.
yeah, yeah. See
Yeah,
what.
we definitely like. So yeah, the album came out yesterday, and it's like 13 tracks, and they're all Burn Will, who is the vocalist, and he pretty much he writes all the songs, and he also programs all the synths, and it's really interesting actually because I should give you some background as to how I got into the online collaboration thing. So
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
I work as a kind of like a guitar player, like a recording guitar player. I also did tours, I should say, before the whole COVID situation with other bands, various bands and singers. And I would also write music for bands and singers that I was working with. And it's funny because the majority of the songs I wrote, I mean, I don't think they're bad songs, but they would end up getting turned down. I'd say like 80% of the songs that I wrote would get turned down just because it's like, I guess it's everything has to come together to in the right place at the right time. You know, if you give
Of
someone a
course.
song, they have to have enough time in the next month or something to go into a studio and record it. And it has to be something that they like, and then they have to make sure everyone else is there, and they got to get it mixed. And most of those songs, you know, you show someone a song on a CD, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's really cool. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it." And then you part ways, and that's the end of that. You know, and the song
Hmm.
just gets stored away on my computer. Well, normally they get stored away on my external hard drive, and then they get thrown out when the computer blows up. So, you know, and so one of my friends, who's a bass player who I work with, he was listening to some of the songs I wrote that I didn't ever use, and he was just like, "Man, there's some really good songs on here. You've got to do something with all these songs." And so I was just thinking, you know, after all the touring stopped, I was thinking, you know, there must be some kind of website where you can just upload a song, and if someone likes it, they can do something with it.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I signed up to those online websites. I was just like, oh, I'll upload my songs. Actually, I made a mistake of signing up to it and then uploading loads of songs, and then finding out that there's like a limit to how many songs you can upload a year, and being like, oh well, that's my online collaboration for the rest of the year finished, and I had to wait a whole year until I could actually upload anything else. But I uploaded those songs, but then one of the byproducts of signing up to that website was I happened to just think, well, I may as well have a listen to some other people's songs while I'm on here, and that one of that guy Ben Will was one of the guys who I just happened to listen to and think, wow, this is insane. Like this is really high level music. And I remember when I listened to it originally, it had all the parts there. Like it had everything. Like it had guitar, it had bass, it had drums, it had keys on it, and also it had like really good guitar, bass, and keys. So it was kind of like okay, but one thing it didn't have a guitar solo. So I was like, okay, well that's something I think I could probably do. So I actually recorded a guitar solo for it. You know, I listened to the track and I was trying to think, how can I make this better? How can I add something to it? And I think I recorded a couple of guitar solos to two of his songs originally. Um, I remember one of them was with a wah pedal. I don't normally use a wah pedal, but I just thought like, oh, if I use a wah pedal, it might stand out. You know, it's something kind of cool. Everyone loves a wah pedal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and the other guitar solo was also a kind of flashy thing. But you know, I was trying to just play for the song, and I uploaded them. Didn't expect much, and I think like a few days later, I got an email or a message from him on them, like a direct message. I just said like, "Here's the next one." And I was like, oh, okay, this is the next tune. I was like, all right. So I was like, fair enough, you know, yeah, I'll do that one. So he did another one, you know, and this guy writes tunes so fast that it was like, I'm pretty sure like while I was recording the tune, I got another message saying, and here's another one, you know, after that. It's just like, fair enough. Okay. You know, like, yeah, this is cool. So I started recording. And then one thing I found out after that was that actually the rhythm guitars are all MIDI, and he had actually programmed everything. So all
Ah,
the bass and all the guitars are all MIDI. But you know, like now MIDI sounds so good, especially if you've got like six guitars laid on top of each other. It's really hard to tell that they're actually not real guitars. It just sounds like a really good guitar player.
mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, you know, I can do the rhythm guitars. I'll start recording the rhythm guitars to these tunes, you know, because, you know, I mean, the only difference between real guitars and MIDI guitars is, you know, I can make mistakes. But actually, that's what makes it sound kind of good. You know, those little,
Sure.
you know, nuances in the vibrato
Yeah.
and in the way that the notes ring. And so I started recording rhythm guitar. And one thing I noticed pretty quickly was that it was lower than standard guitar. He had some notes that were like a B and a B flat. I think there was even like an A, a low A. So I actually had to email one of my friends at ESP, who was actually the drummer in one of my old bands, and pick up one of these bad boys. I'll show you this. It's crazy. It's a 7-string guitar.
Wow.
So it's got a low B right here. And I never really played a 7-string guitar before, but you know, it was kind of like it's a cool reason to get into something new, and I'm always trying like looking for a way to, you know, just to get something new out of my playing, and like a new sound or a new tone or a new technique. And so pretty much that was kind of my concept for playing with this band, recording with this guy. It was like, okay, I'm gonna play 7-string on this album, and I'm gonna play 7-string riffs and try and do some flashy guitar solos. And so that was pretty much what we did. And I think we did like 13 songs, 14 songs in 2 months. And
Nice.
yeah, and you know, and it's cool because it was just kind of like, okay, so let's do an album. And that was my goal, was let's do an album.
And you mentioned that you guys have already written everything or most everything for a second one.
Yeah, that's yeah. We've got about 15 songs for the second album as well. Yeah, we only just released the first album. He writes songs really fast, and I'm so I think the online collaboration websites. I mean, you might have found this yourself, that one of the negative aspects, and I don't want to get too into the negative aspects, is that it's hard to find people on those sites who are willing to do like long form projects. You know what I mean? So, like for me personally, it's great to find someone to work with, but if I find someone that like I really dig their voice or I dig their bass playing, I don't just want to do like a one-off song with them. Like I want to work with them and put out something like a body of work, that you can be proud of,
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my idea with that guy, with that band, was that if we're going to do this, let's do an album with the same sounds throughout, something that sounds like it's cohesive and it carries through. And so actually one of the hardest things for us was finding other musicians, finding a bass player who is willing to put in the time to play on every single track, and things like that. And we had a few other rhythm guitar players who played on some of, like, one guy played on 2 tracks, another guy played on just one of the tracks. But it's great. But it would have been so cool to have like everyone on every track, have that real band sound.
Yeah, sure. Totally. I was thinking on this next one, other than, Peter basically being an addition to what I had on the last one, I'd have the same other 2 guys play with me on it. The thought has entered my head well, actually, I have already entertained having a different guitar player on. Just my friend who played guitar on it is a guy in really high demand for both playing, and he's the guy that mixed and mastered it for me.
Right.
And really did a lot of he brought the song to life. I gave him an acoustic demo, and almost what you hear in the finished product is what he sent me back. So
Right.
he'd put on an acoustic and electric guitar, I believe Mellotron maybe, and a bass, which we ended up replacing. He put drums on, which I ended up replacing with my own playing, and even some backing vocals, which we replaced. They were all good though. I just had some ideas. I wanted to have like a live band, like you say. But
Yeah.
yeah, I understand how. I know what you mean, and it's kind of a concern when it's a legitimate concern, I think, to not only not do something as a full body of work that has some sort of theme to it. So I'm already deviating from that, right? I've got this sort of completely stylistically different tune, I think. And then now I'm thinking of putting another guy in there, and I could probably have the same guys, but it's a risk. So I like that you guys did that, and yeah.
Yeah, it is difficult. Like so my last solo album, the one that I was telling you about, A Light Behind the Eyes, I put some of the tunes for that up on the collaboration website just to see if I can get some people involved. And I did use some of the people from those websites, but again, it was so hard to get the same people to play on the same tracks because well, I guess that's the joy of just being on a website. You can go on it whenever you want. And the previous albums before them, it was the same people in the same studio for 3 days or 2 days, however long it was,
Yeah.
with the same drum kit for every song, the same bass guitar and pedals for every song. And so, like you said, it has that thread going through it. So that's the only one kind of like negative aspect I thought of the online thing. But other than that, like, I met some really great players on there. Yeah, Peter and Bernd, and yeah, it is a great place. Yeah,
And where is Bernd located?
he's in Germany.
That's right. You said that. And is he
Yeah,
German or is he an expat there?
he's German. Yeah, he's German. So he's not even singing in his native language, which makes it even cooler. Like to be honest, like I kind of dig that. Like a lot of my favorite bands growing up were bands from like Finland, and obviously I love Japanese music. That's why I came to Japan. And I always kind of really dug like non-native singers, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's funny because actually, I mean, I hope I okay saying this, but the reason why I was first attracted to his music was not only the fact that his songs were really good, but I thought his vocals were awesome. And it's funny because everyone who has heard his song, they're always either like one or the other. They're like they love it, or it's like not digging the vocals. And it's and in a way, I think that's better than just having like someone who has the run of the mill standard vocal sound, because
Mm-hmm.
almost a lot of my favorite bands are bands that have like unique vocalists. I really love,
Sure.
I love David Bowie. I mean, Elvis Presley. I think even Elvis Presley, if you think about it, he's not like a standard vocalist. He's got that
Right.
weird bassy sound at times, and James Brown, people like that. Like I really dig all those vocalists who have what you wouldn't class as standard vocal sounds. And so I think that was the other reason that I really really liked it. So yeah, he definitely throws people one way or the other. You either love it or you're not really into it.
Well, I mean, technically, he has a quality voice, and or I should say, sonically. I don't know if I can speak about technically, but sonically, he has a great voice. The first time I listened to it, and it was based on something you gave me. It might have been a video. I was a little on the fence about his voice. It's funny, but then that you bring this up. But then I was listening to the new release this morning, and I'm a fan. He sounds great, and then the songs sound
Yeah,
really strong on the album too. That was the other thing. I listened to the first one. I could tell whatever I listened to. I can tell this is a good song. Uh,
yeah.
and the
Well,
voice I'm a little on the fence about. But then when I listen to the ones on the release, which it would be funny if it's one of the same ones that I listened to. I don't know if that's possible because that was a week or two ago that you gave me that. But yeah, like I said, I'm a fan. They sound good. They sound really
it
good.
can yeah, and it can grow on you, man. I remember when I first heard Miles Davis, I couldn't stand it. I was like, this is the worst sound ever. And then and then when I got to like 19, when I was at university, it's like that's all I would listen to is like Miles Davis and John Coltrane. It's like that was the realest, coolest sound. And it's so weird how that kind of happens. It's almost like an acquired taste, like you might not understand it at first, but you just need to expose yourself to it just for enough time, and then it becomes something that you love.
Yep. So Timothy is. I forgot to ask you. Do you go by Tim or Timothy?
Timothy.
Okay. I forgot to
Tim
ask you.
Reid is an actor,
Yeah.
and we are
Okay.
jostling for Google space.
Uh,
He's super famous, so
good.
he's got
Well,
no worries.
I like it. So, share with the listeners what Compose has meant in terms of filling kind of a gap. Because in your email to me when you first introduced yourself, um, you had said that the pandemic had just kind of tipped things sideways for you. You're submitting compositions and touring. You're clearly a working musician. Tell me in what ways it has, and even if there's some shortcomings, like I know you probably missed some facets of what you were able to do pre-pandemic, but yeah, I think it would be nice for people to know, because just so that I know that a lot of people are, and maybe you can put yourself included here, a lot of musicians are really struggling, even the ones that appear to be doing great. I learned, when I talk to some of the people on the podcast. But even if there are some shortcomings, not of Compose, but just like there are just some things still missing, I'd like to hear that too. And I think listeners would appreciate what's been the upside, what's been has there been, do you wish there was more upside?
Yeah, yeah. So as I said, yeah, I was before the pandemic. I was touring with bands and doing some recording work, but it was kind of like half and half. And I do some teaching work as well. Like I do some university lecturing and stuff like that, and I teach like ensemble classes and some music theory classes and things like that. The touring was a big part of what I did, but obviously that just there's no touring now. And even and it's there was some things, like for example just like live streaming shows. I did a couple of live streaming shows which was originally supposed to be a tour.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up just being two one-off shows which we did in front of a camera and live stream, which is another great story because the first one they set the noise gate on my guitar mic really high. And so I had this like beautiful solo in the middle where I was using the volume to like roll in the volume. But you know, because it's like a noise gate, it cuts off all the quiet sound. So I'm getting all into it, doing all the guitar faces, but all the audience could hear was like, "Gah, gah, gah." It was like, and so that I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I need, you know, and the guys were like, oh, it's all right, you know, because we got another show, so we can just make sure that you nail the sound in that one, and then we're sorted. And then the next show, my amp blew up halfway through a song.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. So like what can you do? You know, what can you do? There is nothing. And the tone was great as well. The tone was killing, man. And then literally, I played a solo, and then I just finished the solo. Gone.
Oh
No sound.
no. That's
Yeah, no
that's
sound from
terrible.
my Yeah. Anyway, so that yeah, and so we played those two shows, and then after that, it was like pretty much dried up. So that was, yeah, that was when I decided like, all right, well, I can still do the composing thing, but then composing for artists as well. You know, if they don't have a reason to have a new album because they're not going to be touring it, you know, a lot of that dried up as well. It was like people didn't need songs, they didn't need any new ideas or anything like that. So that's why I decided, well, I was going to put my stuff on online on Kompoz, like you said, is the specific website that I decided to put my stuff on. And yeah, it did fill a void in terms of it was nice to meet musicians who aren't the local guys because I mean I work over here in Japan, and you know it's the same guys a lot of the time,
Hmm.
especially in the schools, you know, in the schools that I work in, because those guys have been there a long time, you know, so they have the regular gigs at the blues bars, you know, and the jazz bars, and it's a lot of the same people get the same work, and so it was nice to get on there and be able to kind of like find a bass player in LA who's a rock guy, and then have another bass player from Italy who's a fusion guy, and you know sometimes they would like both upload a bass part to the same track, and so you've got like a track with this like you said like this Rickenbacker like brush sound on one, you got another one like six string bass, the exact same song, and so that's a really cool thing because it can really take your music in totally different directions depending on what musicians you decide to have on the same track. Um, the other thing is if you actually decide to play on other people's tracks too, and that was never my idea when I signed up to that website. I was literally just going to put my songs up there
Yeah.
and leave them there, and hope someone emailed said, "I like that song. Can I use it on my album?" And be like, "Yeah, sure. You know, use it because." It just goes, like I said, it just goes on my hard drive and then goes in the trash can, you know. Like, so, but like I said, I ended up finding some really good players on there, and you know, and just uploaded my own little guitar parts to their songs, and some people seem to like it. So, you know, and it is like a kind of little country in itself, in that you know you have like a there are like little cliques of people in there who like the rock guys and the metal guys and who always do their, you know, but I think that's one of the coolest things about it because it's so easy to navigate. So like if you wanted to like I'm into a lot of different types of music. I studied like pop music and jazz music when I was at uni, but then I was really in like metal and punk music when I was a teenager. That was the first type of music that got me into playing guitar, was like punk music. And then more recently, like I listened to a lot of classical music. I kind of skipped the classical thing because I got straight into the punk stuff, you know. And then it was like, oh, and then I got into jazz, and it's like, oh, it's so out there. And I kind of skipped a lot of the classical music, and so now I listen. And the cool thing about, you know, it would be really hard for me to know if someone said to me, "Oh, well, let's go listen to a metal band." Okay, well, we'd have to go over there, you know, like we'd have to take a train to that club and see if anyone's playing there. Oh, well, let's listen to classical music. Well, it's like I don't know if there's any classical concerts, but on the website, like literally, there's a button you can click that's like classical, and it's just all classical composition, like new age classical music and stuff. And you can click the same button for like rock music, and it's just all rock collaborations. And so that's one of the coolest things about that website, because if you're like me and you're into a lot of different types of music, you could play on a jazz track, you could play on a rock track, and you could play on like a modern classical track all in the same evening, and upload your guitar or your whatever, your bass to it. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really cool. It can open a lot of like doors that way.
Yeah, well, it's a cool perspective, and I imagine. Well, I having talked to Peter, and then I talked to users from other platforms. You know, everybody sort of has a different perspective and a different experience. And I've talked to people who've all had, you know, positive experiences in their own ways. So, but I thought it was real nice to hear how it has been for you. Um, there's a little irony in an email. I'll forward this to you. I sent out to my list today. The theme of it was kind of like all the stuff that's messed up for music, you know, just for me and others as well. And but that you know, if we're not too hung up on this one thing that we do, we can always find a workaround or a different perspective that we couldn't see before, or try something else.
Yeah.
And so this is a cool story. Your story is a cool story, and possibly Burns is very similar. I don't know how he started on Kompoz, but um, it's nice to hear, you know, when musicians are doing things like they were they were touring and a studio guy, and now they decided, well, let me try this, try taking requests on Instagram, and you know, they're making money again. So you know, it's good to hear these different ways that people do it. And with you, I know it's a huge creative bonus, right? You had all this material, and now you're discovering, oh, I can play on other people's stuff too, and that's really cool. I like it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is really, really useful. And you know, it's such a waste if you're writing music and no one's hearing it. You know,
Right.
that's a real shame. It's a real shame. And so I highly recommend anyone who writes music in their spare time or just as a hobby, just upload it. You know, just upload it, and you don't even have to do anything with it. Just throw it up there and just wait, because you know, you never know. Like, you might just meet someone who really digs the same music you're into, and then it's like, oh, great, I've got a friend who's into, I don't know, jazz, or a friend who's into rock. You know,
Yeah,
yeah, it's,
that's true. Or into all kinds of things. Um, I have barely scraped the surface of your music. I was listening, by the way, to the Timothy Reid trio doing a song, I guess, called Memphis. It was live.
right.
Does
Yeah,
that sound
yeah, yeah,
familiar?
yeah.
That was really great. I'm looking forward to checking out more of your stuff, and exposing the podcast listeners to your stuff, as well as what you've done with Burnt Will. So clever,
Yeah, yeah,
clever,
it'd be cool, man.
clever. And did I just screw up the name of the band or the project? That's right, right? Burnt Will.
No, that's the project's called Burnt Will, yeah, and yeah, it's like I say, you know, it's pretty much me and Burnt. Doing most of the stuff. But there's a few other guys from the collaboration website on there. And then the second album also is featuring a really great bass player on all the tracks. We managed to find someone and convince him to do it. But I think it's probably better that Bern tells you about that. He knows a lot more than I do, because he's writing all the songs. I'm literally just playing this thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, damn fine job. And I will be in touch with Bernd. I don't recall if you already gave me his contact info, but I know where to find him, and I know I can find you, and you can help me find him. So,
Sure.
in fact, feel free to send him my contact and let him know that I'd love to have him on, and congratulate him, and congratulations to you on the new release together. It sounds great.
Yeah. And as well, another release today. I was one of a singer-songwriter from the UK, Nigel Passy, who
Uh-huh.
I used to tour with back in the UK. He just released a song as well today. Song is called "Don't You Leave" by Nigel Passy. That's like Nigel, Passey.
Thanks.
Um, and yeah, it's a single. It's a single off his new album. I don't know when his new album is coming out, but it's a really cool song, and so definitely worth checking out.
Cool. And did you play on that, or just giving him a plug because you
Yeah,
played
yeah,
with him so much?
Now
Cool.
I played on that. Yeah, I played on that, and so yeah. So those are the three things that kind of came out recently: my solo album, the Will album, Here and Now, that came out yesterday, and Don't You Leave, Nigel Passy, which came out literally today. So
Wow, that's amazing. I love that you're so prolific, and you're working with at least one, if not both of these guys who appear to be equally prolific. It, it really shines a light on me personally, thinking about how long it took me to get one song done. You know, working with people that I know, and now working on this one with Peter and these people again that I say I know. I mean, people I already knew, like based almost from my, I feel like from my childhood, but guys I've played with over the years, both in Dallas and in San Francisco, and yeah, it's really cool. But I think it is certainly to the what I want to say, the fact that you and Bernd have the experience with writing music allows you, and you're so dedicated to it. The other funny thing I forgot to mention about our initial communication, yours and mine, is that you made me stop and think, because you said you knew I had released a song, or you knew I played music because you found me actually through my artist website, or contacted me through there. And you said something about, I don't even know how you make time to do music, something like that, because you do so many great podcasts. And I just stopped and was like, I do a lot of podcasts, and I am struggling to make music. So maybe I'll shift the time a little bit.
This must be episode 100 and 190 or something. I guess
well,
you don't even know, right?
No, it's getting really, it's probably is 190 something. And I'm thinking about moving it around because the theme of what we're talking about, I mean, everybody I've talked to, my most, the one I published last week was recorded in October.
Right.
But even today in January of the following year, we're still talking about some of the same stuff because of the pandemic. I mean, that theme is common.
Yeah.
But anyway, I will let you know. Yeah, what you'll find out what episode number it is. And I was thinking maybe I can push this one up. In fact, what I was thinking of doing is just publishing this video straight away as it is, and then I'll go back and do the normal audio stuff, which I think is what you've been listening to on YouTube.
Yeah.
So the more edited version. So yeah. So anyway, thanks so much, man. It's been great. Thanks for staying up late.
Yeah, Ramonzo, it's great to see you, man. I'm a big fan, so keep up the great work, man. I'm going to be tuning in.
Thank you, and I'll talk to you very soon, I promise.
All right.
Cheers.
All right, see you later, man.